This is take 5 of this video because I've shot it 4 times so far this morning. And every time I do it, I end up running afoul of my own self-imposed guidelines, like things I'm not going to talk about or cover on this channel. Because on this channel, I stick to cars, transportation, cars, motorcycles, the world of cars, and things directly affecting them, like for instance, trade, policies, the whole insane EV thing. And I stay away from things that are directly, social or political, because that's for other channels to cover. That's not for us to cover here. I'm going to just focus on my little corner of the world, our little corner of the world. But it all does tie together, and that's why making a video like this is so hard to do. But 2024 is turning out to be an epic year for us long-term tinfoil hat guys, okay? Because stuff we've been talking about for the last 30 years, and everybody's like, you're nuts, that's impossible, that could never happen, that's just your imagination, that's pure fantasy. Well, now things are becoming so obvious, so overt, so in your face that even the normalest of the normies is looking and saying, wait a minute, that's not right, that can't be. It's like, hey, there's somebody on that roof with a gun. Oh, don't mind him, he's just trying to get a better view of the stage through his scope. He's fine, don't worry about that. You see what I'm saying? The opening ceremonies of various sporting events. So in your face that you can't miss it. This is being done deliberately, guys. And like I said, it makes us tinfoil hat guys, it makes our job easier. But in this video, what I want to do is I want to help connect some dots for you to give you a better perspective on what exactly is going on in the world of cars and in the world, well, really concerning 3 nameplates that I myself personally hold dear, and I'm sure many of you also. And I want to talk about Chrysler, Dodge, and Harley-Davidson. And things that have been happening with those companies over the last couple of few years, but accelerating rapidly now, along with the whole EV thing. And world events that are happening and have been happening that you, if you're only paying attention to, let's say, the media, the corporate-controlled media, the government-controlled media, if you're only paying attention to the mainstream media, you're completely oblivious of. You've never even heard of these things. And if you go past, let's say, the 2nd or 3rd page of Google search, or you go to another search engine entirely, you'll find this information. I'm not going to lay anything out that's speculative. Let's just stick to the facts as they can be observed. So let's start with Chrysler. Okay, so Chrysler is one of the longest running, iconic American brands there is. And Stellantis, for some reason, has been keeping it alive. Even though it's losing money on it, it's been keeping the Chrysler name alive with just a minivan. A very conventional, uncharismatic, unremarkable minivan. That's it. That's all. The whole Chrysler nameplate has been reduced to a minivan. Almost just enough to keep the name alive. All right, because remember now, this is an iconic, long-lasting American name. Let's talk about Dodge. So Dodge, over the last 20 years, has gone out of its way to become the performance American nameplate. Okay? So for the last 15 years, right? 20 years, really the last 15 or 10 years, Dodge, everything, right? The Challenger, the Charger, the Hemis, the Hellcats, the Demons, all of this stuff, right? The performance nameplate. And then all of a sudden, just boom, okay, we're done with this. No more Challengers, no more Hemis, no more Red Eyes, no more, not all that's done. Now we're going to base everything on an EV version of the Charger. What? Alienate your core audience? Deliberately destroy the value of this company? Of this nameplate? For what? Why would you do that? Now, let's go to Harley-Davidson. So it's been fairly well known over the last several years that the management at Harley-Davidson has taken on a very different social perspective that is different or really in contradiction with its core audience, with its core consumer, core buyer, right? The Harley-Davidson guy, right? American, freedom, 45-degree V-twin, potato, 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 right? Okay, American, yes. But new management came in there a few years ago and changed the executive positioning of this company and started taking steps to really alienate the lower end buyers on the elimination of the basic Sportster. And I actually did a whole video on that, but moving the brand to be a more international and progressive, nameplate. So this is important. And this is really why I got started on this video. It made me realize, okay, this is a video I need to do to tie things together and connect the dots for people. So last week, a YouTuber, a fellow named Robbie Starbuck, did an expose on Harley-Davidson, talking about its current social policies. Now, this is something I will not go into. I will not cross that line. We're going to stick in the world of cars and things that directly apply to cars. So I'm not going to make commentary on left or right or anything like that, right? Though my politics, just for the record, I am right of center. Monetarily, I'm so radical right-wing, I've literally fallen off the edge of the scale. And socially, I'm kind of to the left. I'm not a leftist by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm like, live and let live. You know what I mean? Stay away from kids. Don't be cruel to animals. Don't take advantage of the less fortunate. And you know what? I don't care what you do. All right? So there's my politics in a nutshell for anybody who's curious. So, Robbie Starbucks does this video that's basically an expose. Information has already kind of been out there. But he does this expose on the politics of Harley-Davidson. And he's talking about Harley's CEO, Jochen Zeitz. And I think I might have actually pronounced it right. Now, Zeitz is a German national. He's not even American. He's a German national. And he has extremely, let's say radical, okay? I'm going to use the word radical. Political views, ideology. And I don't care about any of those. I care about one, that Robbie Starbuck, and I'll put a link to this video. Robbie Starbuck did it. Jeremy from The Quartering also did a video on this. And I recommend you watch these videos and make your own opinions and go there. So we'll put a link of those to the description of this video. So he mentions that Zeitz is a net zero guy. Okay? Now, what does that mean exactly? If Zeitz, the CEO of Harley-Davidson, is a net zero guy, what does that mean? Well, it means that he's dedicated, he has a personal mission, a personal dedication to eliminate the internal combustion engine from Harley-Davidson. It's not written in the policies. It would scare too many people off. But the fact is, he's a net zero proponent, which means that at some point, he and the people who he's surrounded himself with, as far as management goes, is going to transition away from the internal combustion engine, the very essence, the very heart of what Harley-Davidson was known for. Its a reputation, its name, its legacy is built literally on the 45-degree V-twin and its unique characteristics. Okay? I know, so now they're going with 90-degree V-twins and all that, but that's besides the point. Harley-Davidson is tied to internal combustion, period, the end. Well, Zeitz's politics, Zeitz's personal mission is to eliminate the internal combustion engine from Harley-Davidson. Another brand in the process now of committing suicide. So we've got three. We've got Chrysler, we've got Dodge, and now we've got Harley-Davidson. Okay? Now follow along, because this all takes a lot of twists and turns, and I'm trying to be as concise as possible with this. But it does take a lot of twists and turns before you get the full big picture. So knowing what we talked about with these companies and their destruction as far as value goes, okay? Because this is what's happening now. These companies are losing value. They're becoming cheaper. They're becoming easier to buy, okay? This is important. We need to talk about net zero and all of the stuff that goes around that. So in a previous video, we talked about China, and we talked about what I and a lot of other people speculate as to what World War III was. It's my opinion that World War III already happened. World War III was fought over a 50-year period or so, beginning in the very early 1970s, right up to this point, right up to where we are right now. And it was an economic war, and China won that economic war, period, okay? And you can delude yourself and say, no, there's plenty of stuff still made here in America, right? And like, okay, here's an example, right? You go to a supermarket, you go to the American supermarket, and you buy a can of peas, and you say, you know what, this is as American as you could possibly get. I'm in an American supermarket, and I bought this American can of peas that are grown in America and packaged in America. There's no Chinese here, right? No, you're completely wrong, because somewhere in that loop, either through the ownership or management of that chain, that supermarket chain, the peas, right? Maybe the peas were grown here, but they were, the fertilizers or other elements necessary for their growth came from China. The can may have been stamped here in America, but the metal probably came from China. If not, then at least the ink on the label came from China. No matter how you look at it, no matter what you do, there's going to be a Chinese fingerprint on every single thing you buy or do in this country. It is inescapable, and if you try to escape it, well, you know what, just go live in the woods. Yeah, and you know what, the way things are going, the people who do go live in the woods, maybe they're not so crazy after all. But again, see, if you want to avoid this, you have to go live in the woods. China won this economic war. What China is doing now is the next step. Since they won the war, now they're going to collect their resources, because ultimately all wars are about resources. They're about collecting or securing the best resources for your people. And this is what China has done. How do they secure the resources, right? What are these resources? Okay, well now this is where I says you're going to connect all of the dots. I know this is so many twists and turns to this, guys. I know, I'm sorry, but it's the only way that I can boil this down to like a chunk, an understandable chunk, and avoid going off into all different places. Here, now here's what you need to understand. China has very little of their own natural resources. It's a huge country, but it has very little natural resource. It has limited farmland. It has very limited fuel reserves. So the things that we use typically for fuel, okay? Oil, coal, natural gas, those carbon-based fuels, okay? China doesn't have any of those, or has very little of those. We, on the other hand, have huge amounts of it. And you see, no controversy here, no conspiracy here. It's known that on this continent, within our control, we have enough of those carbon-based fuels to last us 300 years at our current rate of consumption, without buying a drop of anything from anybody, without importing a single thing. We are completely energy self-sufficient for the next 300 years. China's not. Policies have been put into place via NGOs, non-government organizations. Policies have been put in place over the last 50 years to make accessing those resources nearly impossible. This land is off limit. That pipeline can't happen. You know all the stuff I'm talking about, right? Roadblocks have been set up to accessing those resources for the last 50 years. They make it extremely difficult and extremely expensive to get to them. Now, here's where I'm going to tie it all together for you guys. Okay, here's what I'm going to tie it all together. China has been working on a thing called the Belt and Road Initiative since around 2015 or thereabouts. It's been planned for a very long time, but they actually started putting in the infrastructure beginning around 2015, give or take. You've never heard of this because you're not supposed to hear of this. The mainstream media does not want you to know about this. The corporate media does not want you to know about this. But this is a well-established fact all around the world, just not to Western countries, okay? The Belt and Road Initiative is the modern-day Silk Road. So what China is doing, because it has very few of its own resources, what China is doing is accessing the resources of Africa. And the Belt and Road Initiative is a building of infrastructure to Africa and all points in between. So they've been building roads, highways, railroads, ports. They've been building all of this infrastructure so they have a direct trade route with Africa, investing huge amounts of money. They're investing the profits that they made off of us into that, okay? Now, the push for EVs. China doesn't have its own carbon resources. So basically what they've done is through NGOs, through lobbying groups, through the media, they've made carbon a bad name. Oh, this is no good. You know, you don't want that. That'll kill you, right? You know, you're a carbon-based life form, but zero carbon, you know, and net zero is, right? So a lot of people say, well, net zero just means that they're going to eliminate all life on Earth, right? Because it's the only way you can eliminate, but that's besides the point. So at the same time that they start investing and construction on this Belt Road Initiative, this is exactly the same time that the net zero concept and policies were put in place. So basically, China is, I got ahead of myself. China has invested heavily in what it calls new energy. Now we call them EVs here, but in China it's called new energy. There's a new energy vehicles, there's a new energy industry. Now the battery technology that we use for EVs is lithium-ion batteries. But they shouldn't be called lithium-ion batteries. They really should be called lithium-cobalt batteries, because lithium by itself does not make for a battery. It doesn't make for a good battery. You need other elements, other minerals, to make it stable, to make it rechargeable. You need certain other things, and the key element in the batteries that we use is cobalt. So an EV battery is basically a lithium cobalt battery. We have no cobalt here, right? And China has no cobalt. Africa has cobalt. So what the aim of this entire movement, everything's happening, okay? But the aim of this is to cut off carbon fuel, okay? Carbon-based fuels, and replace them with electric power, battery power, lithium, cobalt, and other minerals that China is going to supply itself and us with through Africa. And that is the bigger picture. People have talked about the BRICS currency. But when they talk about the BRICS currency, they leave out the most important part of it, that the BRICS currency is a resource or commodity-based currency. But China is accessing this huge supply of resources through Africa, which is one of the reasons they're such a proponent of the BRICS currency. Are you starting to see it? Are you starting to get the whole picture? So what's happening right now, and what has been happening, and where this completely bizarre push to EVs come from, is China wanting to corner the market. Now, North America, South America is lithium rich, which is one of the reasons why, I know the unions and all this other stuff, but one of the main reasons why Chinese companies, other companies that are looking to be absorbed by the Chinese, I'm looking at you, Stellantis, it's one of the reasons why they're moving their manufacturing infrastructure to South America and Mexico, to be closer to the biggest, easiest and cheapest lithium deposits. Okay? Now, China, on the other hand, is going to Africa for the cobalt and other minerals. And China is looking to corner the transportation market of the world through electric vehicles using the lithium found here, the cobalt found there, putting it all together, and in the meantime, deconstructing the traditional American brands. I'm only talking about Chrysler, Dodge, Harley-Davidson, but this applies like crazy stuff happening in all different. I'm only going to focus on those because those are the ones that affect the nameplates, at least that affect me and probably most of you directly. Deconstructing those brands, killing their value so they can be easily absorbed by Chinese companies like BYD. Now, BYD, funny we talk about that. It's been rumored, and there's absolutely no reason for me to like doubt this, that this last weekend, so over the last several months, Chrysler has been basically emptying out, or Stellantis has been emptying out the Chrysler building. They've been eliminating jobs, moving jobs, emptying the building. There are rumors that officials from BYD have been seen on the grounds at the Chrysler building. BYD is getting ready to absorb Chrysler and Dodge, and probably other brands too. Or perhaps Stellantis as a whole, and just using Chrysler and Dodge as a foothold in the American market. So basically, the future of those nameplates is going to be BYD electric vehicles. And the same with Harley-Davidson. Because again, Zeitz, right? He's a net zero guy, which means he's an EV guy, which means that right now the name of the game is kill the market value of that company so it's easily attainable by an EV manufacturer and then start over from scratch. This is the plan. This is what they're working on. This is what they've been working on. And this is why the things that you're seeing make no sense. They make no sense. Connect all of these dots and they start to make sense. China won the economic war and now they're securing their resources. And they're doing it at the expense of American, North American, even European, basically the West. Okay, so it's Europe, it's us, and there are so many other elements to this that I'm not going to go into because it's not just vehicles, and it's not just this EV thing. There's much more to that. But again, I keep this channel within the scope, the things I talk about within the scope of cars. But I'm sure you can put it all together. Because even the normies, even the normalest of the normies are starting to get it. Because it's in your face. All right. So I'll keep you guys posted as this evolves. If I see anything really interesting coming up on the horizon, I'll do more videos of it. In the meantime, I'm almost done convalescing. This last couple of months has been hard physically, but my shoulder had been out. Very, very difficult to do any work, lifting my shoulder. And then I did a number on my back again. So I've been more or less convalescing. Over the next couple of weeks, I'll be getting, and it's been hot and muggy and miserable here. So over the next couple of weeks, we'll be getting back to Mission Improbable, Slag Hammer and our race with Jamie. Bottle Rocket has got a race coming up before the end of this year. So we're going to get back to all of that normal stuff soon enough. Right. But in the meantime, this is an aspect. This does concern all of us. And I hope maybe I either maybe set off a light bulb in your head or maybe tied some of those connections together so that maybe you can connect your own dots and form your own opinions. Because I don't want to give you opinions. I'm not trying to install opinions in your head. I'm just trying to make things that are obvious, more obvious to you. All right. I hope you got something out of that. I'll see you tomorrow.